Hello my friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Novella. Today is Sunday and that means coffee clutch. Coffee clutch is a Dutch-Belgian word that is also used in Germany and New York. That means that I invite you over for a coffee and we have a little chit chat. That's the word, clutch. My chit chat is almost always about books, so you're at the right place if you want to hear more about books. So I've read 4 books since the last video I made, and yeah, I read The Militia House by John Milas. That's a new author, it's a debut. I read Silver Nitrate by, I've got a name, Silvia Moreno-Garcia. How could I? Which is also a brand new book. And I read Leo Africanus, or Leo the African by Amin Maalouf. And what else did I read? Oh, this one. Sorry, ill-prepared. If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga. I thought I saw it on Sean the Bookmaniac's channel, but in fact it was Lindy at Lindy Magpie Reads. Lindy loved this book. I wasn't a big fan. I was not a big fan, I have to admit. So, what is this about? This is a story about an American girl that goes to Egypt, but she is from Egyptian descent, but she doesn't speak the language anymore. She only speaks American and some phrases in Arabic, or in Egyptian, but not really good, and very old-fashioned language. This is what happens when you move from place to place. I have the same thing. I speak a dialect, and when I see my father and my brothers, but it has gotten older because I use phrases that are not used anymore. So I can understand her feeling. And she meets in Cairo a guy who is falling for her, but he also falls for her money and maybe the prospect of going to the States. But this is, of course, as you can imagine, otherwise there will be no reason for a book, a toxic relationship. So, and everything evolves. It is a book in 3 parts. So book 1 starts with a question, always. Every every chapter starts with a question. If you don't have anything nice to say, should your mother be punished? That's the first question. And then the next question. If the stampede is heading toward you, should you turn around and run? And then the story is told. So it begins with a chapter and then with a question, and then part 2 is more like the regular story, but she constantly uses footnotes. So she is playing with almost every page has a vast amount of footnotes, as you can see. So she's playing with the form. And then the last part is at a writing club or sort of creating writing session. They discuss the book and its flaws. I thought it was tedious after a while, and I didn't understand why the footnotes were necessary. It felt a bit belittling. As if white people don't know anything about Egyptian culture or Islamic culture or whatever. So for me it was a bit, no, I didn't like it. And then once you really get into the story, you are drawn out of it and you get right into the middle of a discussion about the book. In a creative writing lesson. For me, it didn't work. But I can imagine that people really loved it. It apparently, winner of the center, or winner of the 22 Center for Fiction First Novel Prize, shortlisted Scotia Bank Giller Prize, shortlisted for the Pen Jean Stein Book Award, named Best Book of 2022 by Time, Kirkus Book Forum, The Globe and Mail, and BuzzFeed. So yeah, I must be wrong, but I didn't enjoy it. Well, didn't enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. So would I buy this book? If I knew it, no, I would have borrowed it, and then I wouldn't have minded as much. Yes, I am a little bit more critical. If I'm harsher when I own the book than when I borrow the book. So yeah, borrow. Borrow it. If you really love it, buy it afterwards at a good price. And then I also read Leo the African. Leo the African by Amin Maalouf is, it's the life story of a real person who lived in, what was it? The 1400s, 1500s. Wait, let me find. Late 1400s, so the 15th century. And this is the story of Hassan al-Wazan, the 16th century traveler and writer who came to be known as Leo Africanus or Leo the African. Why do they say 16th? Well, it starts at the end of the 15th and goes through to the 16th. So yeah, we're both right. But it starts with his childhood. He lived at Fez, and then a lot of things happen to him, and he becomes a traveler, he becomes a merchant, he becomes a slave, he meets the Pope. He has a very, very, very interesting life. And he first was a Muslim, then he became Christian, and then he became Muslim again, and it also talks a lot about Grenada. Grenada was at that time still Muslim, so a big part, almost the whole part of Spain was for a very long time Muslim. And then the Reconquista happened, and with Ferdinand and Isabella, and they regained Spain, and Grenada was one of the last places that they had to conquer and to make it Christian again, or Catholic again. And he talks about the fears that the people had, and there was also a lot of slavery still going on. It talks about a lot of stuff. It's a really good book, but, and there's the but, I read Adrian by Jursena just a month ago, and that book has made a very, very big impression on me. So it is unfair to compare it to the memoirs of Hadrian, because Marguerite Yourcenar made an absolute masterpiece. She wrote maybe one of the best books I've ever read. And then you read this shortly after, and it's just is unfair. So if I would have read it before I would have read Adrian, then I would really, really have loved it. Now I liked it, but not loved it. I think it's a book you should buy, not borrow, but buy. It's a book that you will cherish, and a book that you will think about, and it helps you think about all kinds of religions and how people are conquered sometimes, and they don't really have a choice which religion they follow, and or not follow, and it gives you a lot of insight, and it's beautifully written. It's really well done. I liked it. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I did Hadrian. But I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Nevertheless, it's a very good read. It's easy to read. It's even an easier read than Hadrian. If you read this first and then afterwards Hadrian, you will understand what I mean. but nevertheless, beautiful historical fiction, very interesting, very, yeah, I like to learn new things, and that was the case here, so yeah, absolutely recommend it. Then I read Militia House, The Militia House by John Milas. This is a story about, it's a horror story, and it's a story about a man who is deployed in Afghanistan. And yeah, it's the last couple of weeks that he is there. And the only thing they have to do is help helicopters unload and load with stuff. And so he is bored. The only things he can do is do some PT and just, yeah, reread books. And so there's nothing much to do. But there's talk about of a militia house a little bit further on. And the talk is that before the Afghanistan war, or the Afghan war, it was the war between Afghanistan and Russia. And they say that in the militia house, Russian soldiers were horribly, horribly tortured there. And that since then it's haunted. So, yeah, of course, if you have nothing to do, you're bored out of your wits and you have arms, what do? You go and explore. And so they go to the militia house, and something is indeed very, very wrong. Now, this book is slightly flawed. It takes too long before you get into the action. And you wonder if it's really necessary to take it too long. But on the other hand, he really wants us to feel the boredom and, yeah, the uselessness sometimes of being there. He is very, the author, John Milas, was a soldier who was deployed in Afghanistan, and you feel that he clearly knows what he's talking about. I just wonder if he will be capable of doing another book, if he has another book in him. But nevertheless, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. I gave it 4 stars. So if you would have borrowed this in if you borrowed this in the library, you will have a good read. I don't know, it depends. If you like to read about horror and army stuff, but there's no fighting, so there's no interaction with Afghanis whatsoever. They are just, it's just where they are, their compound, and nothing beyond that. So yeah, I think he can absolutely write. He was, his teacher was Roxane Gay. So yeah, she is a good writer too. So yeah, it was a good read. So borrow, maybe buy, maybe borrow, but more borrow. And then, of course, Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Now, this is a story of set in the late 1990s in Mexico, and there used to be a very vibrant film era in Mexico, horror genre, and yeah, it slowly is fading away. And the main character, Montserrat, she is a sound editor or sound technician of horror movies. And her best friend is Tristan, and he is a has-been actor. And at a certain point they come across a film, you know, like in those canned boxes, and there is supposed to be a curse on it, and they try to lift the curse, and at the beginning it really works. She gets a better job, he is offered a new role, so everything works well. Her sister heals of cancer, but then it's like a boomerang coming back, and you get drawn into all sorts of weird stuff. Highly enjoyable, but still I was like, imagine you watch a movie, but you're not in the house, you just watch it through the window. So you're following it, but not really following it. That was the sense I had when I read this book. It is well written. It's Silvia Moreno-Garcia. She knows how to write. It took a whole lot of time before it got a little bit exciting. There was a lot of details told, and there were a lot of things that were really interesting, like the Nazi stuff, but she doesn't go, to my liking, deep enough into it, and then she abandons it, and then there's other stuff, and then, For me, it was a good read. I enjoyed it, but I was in it. I was never in the book. And sometimes with a good gripping story, you really are in the book. So it was like I was reading over someone's shoulder. So I can't really tell what the problem was, but yeah. Now, I am not a connoisseur of Silvia Moreno-Garcia's work. I only read Mexican Gothic, which I liked, not loved, but liked. I thought it was highly enjoyable. This one is also very enjoyable, but it was just, it wasn't really, So, sorry to say that. Now, I'm currently reading The Wager by David Grann. Apparently, it's also on the summer reading list of Obama. I'm not far in, but the prose is amazing. This is really good. And apparently, it's a non-fiction novel, but very, very good prose indeed. So I'm very much enjoying this one. And then I went to our little free library, which is a 15-minute walk away from here. And I got 3 books. This one is the easiest to say because it's in English. It's by Roald Dahl. It's called Kiss Kiss, a mind-bending collection of stories, monstrous and macabre. So if you want to know what happens when a baby is fed on bees' royal jelly, when Mrs. Bigsby pawns her ravishing mink coat, when Mr. Pearl's brains lives on in a basin after death. Roald Dahl, I always enjoy him. And then an A.M. Holmes book. And what is the English title? The End of Alice. That's one I found. I have no idea what it's about. The End of Alice. But apparently it's about Alice, and it doesn't really end well, I'm guessing. So the last one was 1793 by Niklas Natt. Apparently it has a different title in English. It's The Wolf and the Watchman by Niklas Natt. So it is 1793, 4 years after the storming of the Bastille in France and more than a year after the death of King Gustav III of Sweden. Paranoia and whispered conspiracies are Stockholm's daily bread. A promise of violence crackles in the air as ordinary citizens feel increasingly vulnerable to the whims of those in power. When Mikkel Gardel, a crippled ex-soldier and former night watchman, finds a mutilated body floating in the city's lake, he feels compelled to give the unidentifiable man a proper burial. So apparently it's good. It has 3.87, so why not? It's for free. I can always bring it back if I don't like it. So yeah, that's it. That's my Sunday coffee clutch. Everything is going well. The little monster is sleeping. I wish she would sleep more so I could have more rest. Muffin is doing great. She's the best Vita Mama ever. And yeah, I'm very tired. I am exhausted, really. A lot of running around and emotional stuff to deal with, and yeah, family stuff. So, but with me all is well, just tired. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you will have a great reading week ahead of you. Tell me what you're reading. If you have any tips for me, just let me know. Let me know if you have read one of the books that I talked about, and what are your thoughts? Thank you for watching, and see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.